Laura, go.
All right, here we are, and we are going to have Sean Farnham talk about drafting some players under the age of 21. There's so many good young stars in the NBA right now. And Farnham, you are going to do this. And let's go number 5. Are we going to start there? We want to start with number 1.
We can start with number 5, and I think we should start there because this young man has got a tremendous amount of talent. His future is going to be very bright. It's Trae Young. Trae Young is one of the bright young talents that we have in the NBA. You think about his ability to stretch the floor and what that means for the Hawks. Guys, this is the same game. Just look at the distance here. He has 23 made three-pointers from 28 feet or further away. The rest of the NBA has 10. I mean, that is ridiculous when you think about his ability to stretch the floor. At number 4, I go with Jason Tatum. Now, obviously, his numbers have been fantastic as of late. And you look at what he's meant for this Boston Celtics team this year. He's actually, in isolation basketball this year in the NBA, he ranks as the 5th best most efficient scorer in isolation basketball. Number 3, by the way, defensively in real plus-minus, so he's impacting the game at both ends of the floor. This is where things got a little bit more difficult for me because this talent is ridiculous. All right, let's go to number 3. I go Ja Morant. Ja Morant is a guy that is going to take the Grizzlies maybe from the 2nd pick all the way into the playoffs. And when you watch his highlights, come on, this is ridiculous. This can't even be real. This, by the way, was a 2-point game with under 30 seconds left. And watch this one in the open floor. Yeah, I'm just going to put you on skates. You have no idea where I'm going with the basketball. His highlights might be better than even the next person that I'm putting on this list. And I think this will shock some people because of how much we've talked about him. But at number 2, I'm going with Zion Williamson. Zion's checking in at number 2. Now, we know his level of explosiveness. That block shot, by the way, went into the 4th row. The difference of him, Greeny, I was told with him on the floor versus off the floor, because I watch the show even when I'm not on it, is to the Lakers, to the Warriors. I believe you said that 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago. Very well stated, sir. All right, which brings us to number 1. And you look at number 1, who's under 21 that's just been doing so many great things for his team? Luka Doncic. I think when you think about Luka, before he got hurt, we were talking about him maybe being the MVP candidate this year in the NBA. And his ability to lead what has become the most explosive offense since the merger comes off of his fingertips. He can go right, he can go left. He doesn't have really any holes in his game. The one thing that you're going to use against him is his athleticism. Now, he still has holes, and he'll admit that he's got to continue to work and develop. In fact, he's going to go to his left more frequently than anything else. But this is a heck of a 5 players that are under 21 in the NBA.
So we purposely didn't let Perk see what the list was going to be so you'd react to it live. Obviously, going Luka ahead of Zion. If you're starting a team right now, do you agree or disagree?
I agree to a certain extent. And here's why, Sean, I love you to death. I agree with Trae Young. He's box office, right? I agree with Tatum at number 4. He's an elite wing defender, two-way defender, he's a walking bucket. Ja Morant is a generational talent. He's a mixture of Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook, and Rajon Rondo. So I leave him at number 3. This is why I have a problem with. Zion Williamson is an iconic figure. I could see him being the face of the NBA right when LeBron James leaves, starting next year. This guy is like box office. You know, Luka has been doing an incredible job.
He doesn't sell like he sells. Like, he sells more tickets. He sells a lot of things that Luka doesn't.
And that's why I'm picking him number 1.
understand that.
Because if I'm a GM, if I'm an owner, I need Zion. I need the ticket sales. I need everything.
But what if you're going to get fired if your team doesn't win? Who's going to win more in the NBA in their career, Luka's teams or Zion's teams?
Well, I'll tell you what, did Luka make the playoffs last year as a rookie?
He did not.
Okay, so if Zion make the playoffs this year, hey, you got to roll with Zion. Hey, Greeny, you tried to trick me, but I got it.
You got it. He usually succeeds in that.
I'm just happy I can hear again. Okay.
I know.
We have a lot more to come in this hour of Get Up. And their young rookie is just spectacular. And suddenly this team is making a playoff push. Do you hear me, Jalen Rose? We have the bet. Looking to the bottom of the West standings, the Grizzlies still occupy the 8th spot, 3 games clear of Portland, 3.5 in front of New Orleans. Our analytics, however, give the Pelicans the best chance to get in at 32%. So we can talk about the playoffs. But let's just talk about this from Big Perk. Let's just start with how extraordinary his jump to the NBA has been. Here he is now, 11, 12 games in. Has he been better than you expected him to be?
Absolutely. Listen, this kid is box office. You hear me? This kid reminds me of a old pet I used to have when I was living with old Granny and Paul down in Beaumont, Texas, named Trouble, a pit bull that was a guard dog. He didn't bark, but you knew he'll bite, and you just hear him. Granny. Get him up off of him. Listen, one thing about this kid right here, man, Zion Williamson, he moves graceful. They complain about him being 280 pounds, but he plays like he's 240. He runs the court extremely well. And you know, two things that impresses me about Zion. One is that you don't find a superstar that has a motor like this on the offensive end and defensive end, and he plays winning basketball.
Yeah, to your point, too, since Zion has debuted for the Pelicans, they are second in the NBA in shooting. They are second in pace. They are second in assist percentage to made field goal. And over the last 2 games, 77% of their made field goals have come off of assists. They've spaced the floor, and they get Zion moving. And when he is cutting, as we showed you in those highlights, when he's moving, it's special. And the chemistry that they're developing between him and Ingram, you're talking about a 22-year-old in Brandon Ingram, a 19-year-old in Zion Williamson. This is the next duo that we're going to be talking about in the NBA if they stay together.
And you got Lonzo there to run the show a little bit, and they're all so young. Let me ask you this, though, Big Perk, because my big question about Zion coming in was he was bullying kids on the college level, and I did not think that would make the jump with him to playing with these men in the NBA, but it has. Now, you're one of those guys who would have been banging down low with him when you were playing. What would you have done with him defensively?
Call for a double team. I tell you, yes, man, this kid is a problem. Not only does he has brute strength, but I'm talking about the way he's able to move and the quickness, how quick he gets off of the floor, it causes a problem, Greeny. When you look at this kid, and now much credit to Alvin Gentry because he's putting him in position to be successful.
What did you weigh when you played? At your best, what was your weight?
Hey, Greeny, is that a trick question?
No, it's not.
Okay, no.
How close to Zion?
No, seriously, I was like 275, but he's 6'6". You know what I'm saying? So he's 6'6". It's different. It's only one of Zion. This is no comparison.
When I first saw him a year ago at Duke, and you looked at his girth and his chest cavity and the thickness, and then you watched him just literally in layup lines, you're like, oh, my God.
I do have to ask the one question, though. I did a whole essay admitting I was totally wrong on this kid last week. But the one moment where he lands like that, at what point will it ever come that we stop worrying about that we stop worrying about the health?
I think when you get enough maybe a season or two in and he's not injured for that period of time, then you don't worry about it. Until he gets up to that point in time, the only thing that can slow this young man down from being that box office guy is his health.
Are you worried about it? Are you worried about the health?
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it because he's in good hands with David Griffin. And I know David Griffin is going to surround him with the right medical staff, athletic staff, that's going to put him in position to be successful.
That's the GM there in New Orleans. Once again, Jalen and I have a bet. I got the Pelicans in the playoffs and Zion for Rookie of the Year, and he's on his way.
Of his 16 rebounds came on the offensive side of things. Kansas up a fair amount. As Abuki finished with 19 points, 16 rebounds. It's a big Kansas win, 83-58. They have won 13 in a row.
You really don't want to go to Tallahassee this basketball season. It's not good for you. Number 11 Louisville at number 6 Florida State battle for first in the ACC. Cardinals were up 12 at half 2, and then the Noles go on a run. Devin Vassell for 3, and then clamping down on D. The pass stolen by Patrick Williams, and he splits the D, and there he goes. Florida State on a 15-zip run. Noles take a 7-point lead. Then MJ Walker breaking the press. Trent Forrest throwing down on Jordan Wara. Forrest had 14 of his 16 after halftime, takes a hit. Everyone starts tapping their heads. Vassell talking to Allison Williams, what it means.
All right, I saw you guys all doing this at the end of the game. This, what's up with that?
Oh, he dunked on him. That's on his head. I'm sorry.
Florida State dunking on the entire conference right now. Noles take over first in the ACC. 22 straight wins at home. College hoops tonight, 7 Eastern. It's number 8 Kentucky going for 7 straight wins when the Wildcats visit A&M. Then NC State trying to keep NCAA tourney bubble hopes alive when they visit Cole Anthony and the Tar Heels. Both of these games on ESPN and the ESPN app.
They made a decision. It comes down to this. James Harden and Russell Westbrook. We going small ball.
That's the NBA now. Faster, guys are able to shoot, more athletic, so that's what our team is built.
this small ball lineup work. What do you say to that?
We're going to make it work.
The Rockets have been making this small ball thing work. Over the last 10 games, they've played without a center, and it's going pretty well. They've won 8 of their last 10, and they rank in the top 5 in NBA in points per game and offensive efficiency over that bend. Get Up is coming your way at the top of the hour, but you don't have to wait for a preview of that. Good morning, Greeny.
Nicole, thank you very much. And I think it's ironic to talk about small ball. I found the largest person I could possibly find. Kendrick Perkins is here. And let's talk about the Rockets, who, with that hot streak that Nicole is talking about, have moved up to 4th in the West. They're 1 game back of the Clippers for 3rd. They're 2 games back of the Nuggets for 2nd. Does this small ball thing actually work?
Yes, I do think it works. And listen, it's not small ball because you have a guy with a big heart by the name of Russell Westbrook. He's dominant in the paint right now. And I wasn't a fan of the Houston Rockets until they made this trade. But listen, you have 2 former MVPs that are still in their prime, and James Harden and Russell Westbrook, arguably the most dynamic backcourt in NBA history. And be careful, because the Rockets are only 2 games out of the 2nd seed.
Right.
And if they happen to sneak up at that 2nd seed, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockets come out of the West.
It does come all the way out of the West, all the way to the NBA Finals, because my next question was going to be, can this work in postseason basketball?
Absolutely. I think it could work. I don't know how opposite team could stop this, Greeny. Like, who could stop Russell Westbrook one-on-one? Who could stop James Harden one-on-one? I don't see it happening, and the playoffs are right around the corner. Unless somebody come up with a strategic game plan, which I don't see happening, hey, I wouldn't count the Rockets out.
It's a fascinating experiment. They made 16 threes last night. They've made 20 or more.
To see them go after it in L.A. is going to be just can't-miss television. And Zion has become can't-miss television. And his first 12 games and the strength and the carryover that we've seen from the college game to the NBA has been off the charts, averaging 25 points per game in the month of February alone. And you look at what the Lakers have been able to do, and Anthony Davis and the streak that he's been on of 6 consecutive games of 25 and 10. They're the top team in the Western Conference. This could very easily end up being the first round of the playoffs in the Western Conference, because I do think the Pelicans are going to be able to make a push here. With Zion, since he's debuted, they have the 2nd best pacing in the NBA. They also have the 2nd most points per game in the paint, and the 2nd best shooting in the NBA since Zion has come in. They're flowing really well, and in the last 2 games in particular,